Hello everybody, this is Johns Hopkins with Baltimore Heritage, and we're back for another of our 5-minute Histories videos. And today we're going to talk about Wyman Park. And I want to start by thanking a group called the Friends of Maryland's Olmsted Parks and Landscapes. Kind of a heck of a name, but they've got a really great acronym, FMOPL. So thank you all you FMOPL people that have done, over the years, done lots of research and put together wonderful materials on Olmsted designed parks in the greater Baltimore area and in fact across the state. So thanks FMOPL. All right, I am standing here in a part of Wyman Park called the Dell, and it was an outgrowth of a 1904 plan that was come up with by the Olmsted brothers landscape architecture firm. And we're going to talk about that in a second, but I thought I would first talk just a second about Frederick Olmsted. One of our viewers several weeks ago sent in a comment that sometimes I just jump in too quickly into a topic without any kind of introduction, and I thought that was more than fair. So let me give a tiny little introduction to Frederick Olmsted. He was known as the father of American landscape architecture. He practiced really, say, from about 1850s to 1900 or so. And he was known for trying to accentuate the natural features of whatever place he was doing. So, for example, river valleys or outcroppings of rock or stands of trees. That's what he wanted to accentuate. And he was a landscape architect, so he did add features. He wasn't John Muir, the let it be type of person. But the features he added were with a very soft hand. So, for example, if he needed to create a border, he would do it with maybe a row of bushes or a row of trees. Native, of course. If you introduced exotic species, that would detract from the natural scenery. Or maybe it would be a small stone wall, like here in the Dell. In fact, a dry, packed stone wall, no mortar, so it looked really natural. One of his greatest, a place where you can really see this in action is probably his most famous work of landscape architecture, which is in Central Park. And there he needed to add roadways, or carriageways back then, but instead of having them crisscross all over the park, he sunk them down below grade, so they would be really inobtrusive, and the natural features of Central Park would still stand out. Olmsted designed Central Park, that kind of launched him, but he designed parks all over the country, in Buffalo, in Louisville, in Detroit, all over. And in fact, if you want as a little aside, if you want a really neat kind of long weekend, the Buffalo park system, Olmsted designed kind of a whole citywide network of green spaces. And if you have a 2 or 3 day weekend, want to drive up there, it's really worth the trip. It's fantastic. Unfortunately, he dies in 1903, but fortunately for Baltimore, his sons, Frederick Jr. and John, take over the firm. And I think the firm actually continues to operate until 1980. But under Frederick and John, they come up with a plan for Baltimore's park system in 1904. And it's got kind of a not so sexy name. And let me read you this. It's called The Report Upon the Development of Public Grounds for Greater Baltimore. Not super eye-popping there. But in fact, it is a plan for Baltimore to have a network of green spaces that connect us. And it starts in Clifton Park in the east, then to Lake Montebello. And if you're wondering why 33rd Street is a wonderful median with green space, that was part of this green ribbon. So that would connect us heading westward to Wyman Park here, which initially then connected all the way to Druid Hill Park. And then out, if you've ever been on Gwynns Falls Parkway and you wonder why is there a wonderful strip of green down the middle there, that was part of the green network that would connect all the way to Leakin Park in the west. So maybe we should actually do a whole video on our Olmsted Park design. But that was the grand plan. Here in Wyman Park, this was sort of the central part, and there were 2 parts to it. There was here in the Dell, and then there was the part along Stony Run. And let me start with the part about Stony Run. And here's what the Olmsted brothers have to say about Stony Run. They called it the finest single passage of scenery in the whole valley. And remember, the goal, they keep their father's goal of accentuating the natural. And then they say, there are few spots so near any large city that equal it. So for the Stony Run portion, if you know that, it's both north and south of University Parkway. If you've ever driven on San Martin Drive, that windy sort of woodsy area just on the west side of the Hopkins campus. That's it. I'm here in the Dell, which is just south of the Baltimore Museum of Art and just west of Charles Street. But that windy drive is part of the Stony Run part. And with the bold topography, those are the Olmsted words, they inserted a series of winding walking trails and wonderful stone bridges to try to keep that as, accentuate the natural parts of that as much as possible. Here in the Dell, they didn't start with such a pristine environment. The Dell, by the time they got to it, had already been, the city had already sunk sewer lines underneath, leveled the bottom here, and raised it a couple feet. But it was really the first spot in this whole park plan that got going. Before 1904, the Wyman family, that's how it gets its name, the Wyman family, had purchased part of the estate from the Carroll family. If you know Homewood House on the Hopkins campus, that's the Carroll family. But the Wyman family had purchased it and then given it to Hopkins. Hopkins had used part of it to build Homewood campus and then had given part of it to the city for a park, and that's where we are now. So by 1904, Wyman Park was really ready to go. And here the Olmsteds used more of sort of a pastoral approach with this nice sweeping lawn, small stone walls. They kind of kept what they could here as a sort of a strolling place, maybe not so wildly natural. And the idea was that the Stony Run part of the park and this, which was more wild, and this sort of more pastoral part were part of a seamless park system. Unfortunately, over the years, that kind of got broken apart. Urban development around the Dell here really kind of made it like an isolated little green island of space in a concrete and road world around it. And then the Stony Run part, in parts of it, especially over around Howard Street, between here and Druid Hill Park, got eaten up by urban development. So instead of a sort of seamless system, we've got kind of a little bit of a fractured two-park system. But lest we're gonna wrap up here, but lest we end with this sort of following Virgil to the gates of hell, where it says, "Abandon hope, all ye who enter here." We're not going to abandon all hope. For Wyman Park, in 2006, there was a master plan, and we're seeing it being implemented over the last several years. We've got wonderful developments, like the edges around the park have been softened and made more pedestrian friendly. With this stone wall that I've talked about was restored. Again, no cement in there, so this really nice, wonderful, natural boundary to this part of the park. And Stony Run itself had a wonderfully, enormously restoration work done on it just over the last several years. So it is getting back to its wild self that the Olmsteds would be so proud to accentuate. So let me leave you with this. Even here in the Dell, which is not quite so wild, but you'll know it if you've ever been to, say, Gertrude's for lunch on a nice day. Then you come out. This is where all the Hopkins students put out blankets and sunbathe and play Frisbee and do whatever college students do. When there are college students. But we still, although it is a little bit fractured, we still have a park system in Wyman Park that can be home to Hopkins sunbathers and a resident family of owls at the same time. So thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.